Mang Inasal? Ano yung paano ka nagsimula? Ano yung naiisip mo?
Yeah, actually, during that time, kasi I was based in Iloilo, I'm not so familiar dito sa Manila kasi I don't go here too often. I was born there, I grew up there. In the province, I studied from elementary, high school up to college doon sa Iloilo and Rojas. So I just moved here 7 years ago. So prior to that, I was really based doon. So like a typical probinsyano, growing up there, being unfamiliar dito sa the bigger city, the mindset is always hindi kayang mag-expand or to conquer the whole country kasi you're limited to that. Being unfamiliar alone is a big obstacle already. Parang ayaw mo nang try. So I was 26 at the time. So in my early 20s, I was thinking, okay, I'll do some businesses, but puro local lang. I've never tried to think of expanding outside kasi parang hindi kaya. So then one incident happened in 2003. That text competition was a nationwide thing. But I think most of the stories there in the book, that incident changed my perception totally. Kasi it was a nationwide competition, and here I was. I told myself, oh, I was able to make it with just analyzing the situation and trying to come up with a simple strategy and executing it properly. And I was able to make it. Then that incident totally changed my perception. I said, oh, then maybe I can start a business that I can expand nationwide also and be able to succeed. So then I tried to look around the universe of any business. I said, kahit ano na business, basta I can expand it nationwide. So for a few months, I was thinking of what to do. I was studying different industries. Then came the site, the manager of Robinson, Iloilo. There's a car park building across it. It has been open for more than 2 years at that time, and nobody was taking the space at the ground floor of the car park building because it's outside the mall. So they decided to push down the lease rate to only 150 per square, which at that time the lease rate was 400-500.
Okay.
So they decided to drop the price, but they decided to make that area a food strip. So the mall manager one day visited me and offered it, and then I found the space great, very attractive. So immediately, after a few seconds of thinking, I got it. I signed up the lease kasi I got the corner. It was a 200 square meters space. Pero kasi at that time, I was looking for a business to expand nationwide. So nag-timing then the space came, and it was attractive. I got it. And after she left, of course, usual in most malls, they give you like 2 months to come up with everything, the plans, and to build the store without rent. So I got the space, and then when she left, I said, okay, now I have 2 problems. I have to come up with a business concept. One, it should be expandable nationwide, which is my own criteria for myself. And now the mall's criteria has to be food. So they want to make that a food strip. So I'm now left with that. And the 60-day pressure to get all done within that 60 days. So that's how things started. So I cracked my head, came up with the concept and everything in a few days. And then that weekend, I called up my father, and I think that most of the story is in the book. That's how it happened. And then the birds. Everything has to be in all that. So that became my things to do. So
ano yung mga nakita mo? What did you prioritize in the food?
So in the food sphere, kasi I was focusing on the food and nationwide expansion. Then I tried to study the fast food sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, that was 14 years ago, I was looking at the fast food space. Well, it so happened that, for a fast food to be sustainable, there's one thing I said that has to be a common denominator. It should be a natural comfort food of the general mass, of our general population. So it has to be the common denominator for it to be a mainstream fast food. And then I said, for Oriental, we like Filipinos naturally like Oriental food, the Chinese food. There's already a fast food equivalent, which is Chowking. And in the fried chicken space, since they all started like almost at the same time in the late 70s and the early 80s, that's why there's about 3 of them in that space, the Western burger and fried chicken. There's already 3 of them, KFC, McDonald's, and Jollibee. And in the pizza space, there was Greenwich at the time. So I said, how come there's no barbecue fast food? There's so many which I go to from time to time. But it's all casual dining and waiters service concept. So that's how I was able to spot that vacancy. I said, I think this is the only comfort food of the general mass that's not yet fast food. So how come there's none? That's how the concept started. All of them, I go there in those restaurants, all of them are casual dining.
Yes,
And
yes.
not only in Ilon, Bacolod, in Davao, in Oro, everywhere. So that was a gap at the time.
So you started the chicken, ano yung mga early challenges mo ngayon? Simula ka na ng concept, ito na.
Yes, so many challenges which I think the entrepreneur should not avoid kasi it's really, you just have no way to skip it. To skip that stage na maraming challenges. Kailangan daanan mo talaga yun. If you will not be able to pass through that, you will not successfully reach your destination anyway. So it's parang hindi mo hanapin yung way na to skip that challenging period. You just have to prepare yourself, anticipate in advance as much as you can. So I think that's the only way. Kasi ang daming sabay-sabay. Problema sa operation, problema sa finances, problema sa personnel, problema sa access to suppliers, access to good people. So lahat yun, you come from
marketing pa, promotion,
everything. So you have sabay-sabay silang kailangan gawin, and you only have very limited resources, personnel, to be able to do everything. So wala, just have to do it.
Pero ikaw, you were really hands-on. I mean, you talagang dinaanan mo yun.
Yeah, first few years, I was in the store every day from opening up to closing.
Yeah, you and your family.
And very difficult kasi we wanted to keep the recipe a secret.
Yes.
Kasi we knew at the time that it would be important as we grow the business. So have no choice. Have to be in the store from opening till closing. Then when I go home at 10, my routine is me and my wife still has to mix the marinade manually in the house. So we sleep 2 to 3 in the morning, and then 6 o'clock have to prepare again to go to the store again and open the store. So that was my routine for the first few years.
Yeah, 7 days a week.
7 days a week. We go home every night at 10:30. Then pagdating mo 11, you feel like, I wanna sleep, but you cannot. Kasi you still have to
Titip ka na naman.
yeah, so that was the routine for the first few years.
Yeah. One of the best offering na ginawa ng Mang Inasal is the Only Rice. In fact, my daughter loves Mang Inasal because of Only Rice. She consumed 5 cups.
Okay, wow.
So,
Di mo yan ang record. Alam mo, yan ang may kasalanan.
Ang galing ng idea. So, who came up with that idea?
Actually, that idea, we just followed from, at that time, yung popular yung Sun Cellular na unlimited calling text. So that's what triggered that idea. And at that time, there were we had less than 20 stores at that time. I think we started it in 2006.
Yeah.
At that time, we have to analyze properly kasi we will lose the extra rice sales. So what we did is yung store sales in extra rice, we tried to divide it among all the customers. So we decided when we implemented that in the stores, it was May 1, I remember. So nagdagdag tayo ng 2 pesos per meal on the same day that we introduced that, so that we can offer the unlimited rice. That 2 pesos covered the extra rice sales already. But as a whole, because of that, the whole sales went up. So it more than compensated.
But,
and it became a regular feature in all markets.
But you remember, we tested muna in certain stores, and that's a concept before you went on nationwide. Find out, di ba? Every opening of the store may Only Rice. You know?
Kasi when you say Mang Inasal, it's Only Rice.
Yes.
Even up to like a few months back, I think there was si Senator Cynthia Villar wanted to stop. Tapos lahat talagang nag-trigger eh. Sabi, no, talagang mag-protest lahat eh.
But it's more of the value, no? You are giving value to the customers, no?
Also, I think maybe because it's human nature that when you have that power to abuse, at any time you want, you like that.
Yeah.
But you won't do that every day anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the whole thing.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
15 minutes.
Siguro, what's your parting advice to entrepreneurs in this age of competition, especially globally? Now that you're running a conglomerate of companies, ano mga advice mo?
I think one, most of that again, I think is well explained in the book, but I think isa is dapat pag-aralan talaga. If you want to go into something, you have to really study the whole industry and come up with a really well crafted plan. So not to skip that. Next after that is you have to really passionately execute your plan and be ready to tackle all the challenges that will come your way. Parang you won't avoid it. You will just have to deal with it head on and put your heart and soul to make your goal happen. Tapos siguro another is, for me, I think yung having doing your business dealings fair and square is important in the long run. Kasi if you compromise your values, maybe it will advance you temporarily, but I think in the long run, it will pay off if you do things fair and square. So I think that's important thing that I also wanted to impart with my fellow entrepreneurs, and especially the new ones,
The young ones.
like us.
And your family of AFFI.
Yes. And yun. So I think that's important.
That's question. You know, like, what is the best practice na parang naging discipline na ginagawa mo on your way to success? Kasi all of us has one attitude na parang yun yung discipline na lagi natin ginagawa.
So yun, one most important is to always be consistent in doing your business dealings fair and square. Also having focus. Kasi I think if you're a startup, and especially if you're competing with the larger other players, it would be parang it's impossible for you to be able to successfully compete kung you don't have the focus. So focus is really important, especially during the first few years. Kasi I think that the business is, I'm sure you will agree, it's like having a child, di ba? Parang when the child is infant, parang you give so much attention. Every second you have to be there. But also, as he or she grows up, you also have to adjust. So when pag adolescent na, parang you have to have less being less hands-on, and then pag nag-adult na, kasi I think that is the main goal, that eventually in 5 to 10 years, the business should be like an adult who can run on its own and grow on its own without you being in the middle of it. I think that should be how businesses is built. So I think that's important.
So since we're inspiring entrepreneurs, like employees to be entrepreneurs, familypreneur, do you also advise them, like for example, they don't have the resources, do you advise them to like take loans or whatever, or kung paano po, like may problema sila sa finances, so from as an employee, paano po, how will they start?
I always believe that capital will always be a challenge. But kailangan, there's always a way to get that. It's more connected to having yung tamang business model. Kasi if you have a right business model and you're able to build and package your goal properly, you will be able to get it somewhere. Just like in my case, for example, I borrowed 2.4 million from my father, and that's it. That amount, even for my case, will not be easy, or I won't get it if he thinks I won't be able to pull it off. So I have to put it together, and I'm sure they observe how I think, how I do things, how I behave myself. In coming up with my business, how I manage it, if I do it properly or hindi. So those things, it's not only that model, it's even around it. If you put it together properly, you'll find a way to get that startup capital.
Sir Injap, tanong ko rin lang, where do you get the motivation and also the energy? Because I would think na managing Double Dragon, ibang level siya. I mean, ibang level din yung stress. So where do you get that energy and motivation to really take it to the next level?
I think stress and everything is more different for each person. I think it's more like, for my case, starting from scratch, building up the Mang Inasal, for example, I had so much of that. It's like that stage parang built your stamina. Parang it's how you react to it. What would be parang very heavy for one will be like nothing for the other.
Okay.
So it's just like exercise. If you exercise, keep on exercising. 5 miles, 10 miles is nothing, right? But for one guy who's first time to run, 100 meters will be difficult. So that's how I look at it. So it's important for you to to develop that stamina.
Okay.
So along the way, over time.
Question. A lot of us, of course, we all have our chances to give back, right? Our advocacy. I'm just curious about what your focus is in terms of advocacy and how you want to give back to the community.
For myself, since then, I was focused more on the education side. Kasi for me, I came from like a middle class family. I was trying to think, pag middle class, to move up further, education is not really the most important one. Like I did finish college. But for the people in the poverty level, that's their only way. That's the most effective way. So that's how I view it. Kaya I'm focusing more on the education, especially on the poverty level side. Kasi if we have thousands and thousands of them every year getting out of that line, that will have so much impact in our society.
You made a big move after Jollibee made the purchase, and you donated a public college for Iloilo.
Yeah, it's now open.
Oh, 5-story building.
Yes.
So, bakit? Ano yun? Was it because of your advocacy? Yung
Same.
education
Anything
talaga?
into education. So, kasi that's the first public college there. So, I grew up there. I saw this. The public high school is across the street, and after that, they go nowhere. So, parang it's a way for that institution to catch that level, so they can graduate and they can get a good job. And so, for me, I think in what I do every day, there's two things: focusing on our advocacies mostly in education, and growing the business, which creates employment. So I think that two works hand in hand. And also, I think that the book also hopefully will further inspire many to pursue their dreams and continue to be passionate and be determined.
Sir, last one more question.
Last question.
Curious ko kayo before Mang Inasal na maybe you tried a business na maybe hindi naging successful, or was there ever a time that you were almost tempted to give up on
So far, the businesses that I started, the small ones, like the hotel, it's been there. It's been 20 years. Now it's still there. The laundry business I started also still there. But it did grow to a certain level in a nationwide scene, because even from the time I started it, I was again at that time prior to 2003. Parang I never tried to explore the possibility of starting something growing nationwide. So it's really meant to be at that size. It only changed after that text competition thing. So parang it took out my big wall in front of me that I cannot do it nationwide. Kasi I think before Mang Inasal in 2003, prior to that, I went here 4 or 5 times lang in my entire in Manila. So it's here when I'm here, it's so chaotic. So you don't know where you are. So parang it's so overwhelming. So then I slowly I tried to get myself familiarize myself. Because when we go here before, my father brings us in Binondo, in Chinatown, we stay in Fortune Hotel, in Laylay there. So the Makati is like, we just pass over it. So, and that was not too long ago. So after that, so I tried to get myself familiarized. I go to the big hotels at the time. I think the first time I entered those hotels, 10, 12 years ago, yun yung at the time na first time kong pumasok sa Shangri-La, sa Intercon, sa Peninsula. So even if I don't have meeting, if I have some sites to check, for example, I try to pass by one of them and go to the toilet and then
Get the feel.
Yeah, so I try to build that up over time.
Sir, was there ever a time in your business career that you wanted to give up?
Yeah, very early. I think it's also in the third day after the first store opened. I got so exhausted. Yeah, kasi I had so little sleep. Especially the preparation before the opening is so heavy. Plus, when we open, ang gulo-gulo. Like, so many unexpected things happen. And then, ayun nga, after we come home, still have to manually prepare the marinade, and then sleep for 2 to 3 hours, and then go to the store, and then do it again. So after 3 days, I said, that night, I was so exhausted. Sabi ko, I told my wife, let's close it tomorrow. And he said, and she's next thing is, sabi niya, but you're the 2 million you borrowed from your father. I said, well, I'll just call him tomorrow. Future inheritance. So that's, kasi I was so exhausted. But after I slept for 2-3 hours, I changed my mind. So I think that also, it's a manifestation that you're really, parang your desire to make it work is really there. Kasi parang you rebound back and do it, continue doing it.
Last.
Nakadalawang last.
90 minutes na.